I hate Goku's Japanese voice. Why does he have to be voiced by a woman? Goku's Japanese voice doesn't fit him. I've gotten more than a few comments like this in my videos, and every time I get one of these, it really saddens me because it shows me that there's still a lot of individuals out there who have a lack of understanding about the history of Dragon Ball and why Goku has the voice that he does. So in this video, I want to talk about that and why Masako Nozawa is the only true voice of Goku. Hey guys, Tony here, and today I have another one of those videos that is going to upset some people. In fact, I think it probably got some people upset already and they might have left some negative comments and then just stopped watching the video. So if you're one of those people, thanks for the engagement. If you're not, how about some engagement? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And so let's get into it. First of all, I want to set the record straight about something. There is no Japanese dub of Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball was produced in Japanese. The audio that you hear in the original Japanese version is the original audio. A dub refers to the act of replacing the audio. That's why the Funimation redub is a dub. That's why the Ocean dub is a dub. It's not the original audio. The original audio is in Japanese, so don't call it a Japanese dub. I know most of you who watch my videos probably understand that, but there is a surprisingly large amount of people who don't seem to understand the difference, or maybe they're just not thinking about it because I've heard the term Japanese dub used in videos and I've seen it used in comments.
I'm going to be talking about why I hate the voice acting for Goku and Krillin in the Japanese dub of the Dragon Ball anime.
Okay, so now that that's off my chest, let's begin by taking a look at why Goku sounds the way he does. In order to understand that, we have to start by looking at the history of the Dragon Ball anime. So when it came time to pick who was going to be the voice actor of Goku, what happened was that the producers gave Toriyama a list of voice actors. And I don't know who else was on the list. I'm not sure if that has ever been disclosed, but apparently Masako Nozawa was at the bottom of the list. Why? Because she was already fairly well known at that time. She had done pretty high profile work for other shows. And so her rate was higher than the other people's on the list. So you had to pay her more in order to get her to do the same amount of work. And the production staff didn't want to pay so much. So they put her at the bottom of the list in order to increase the chances that Toriyama picked somebody else. However, the story is that Toriyama reviewed the list. I guess he went one by one and listened to each of their voices. They must have left him recording so that he could listen to their work. And then he got to Masako Nozawa. And immediately he decided she was the voice of Goku.
悟空がこの人ってで私後で聞いたんですけどこの人以外にないっておっしゃってくださったんですってそれ嬉しくてもう私の宝物として心の中にしまったんですけど
Obviously, ever since then, Masako Nozawa has been the voice of Goku in Japan. From the time Goku was a little kid all the way into Dragon Ball Super and, of course, even Dragon Ball Daima, where she was 88 years old while Dragon Ball Daima was airing and she sounded amazing. So this is something that I think everybody needs to understand. Some random producer at Toei wasn't the person that cast Masako Nozawa as Goku. It was Akira Toriyama himself. Another thing that's important to point out is that Toriyama himself said that when he's writing Goku, he only is able to hear Masako Nozawa's voice.
キャラ描いてると野沢さんの声しか浮かばないからもう僕としてはごく普通の出来事に近いっていうか
On top of all of this, Masako Nozawa deeply influenced the way that Toriyama wrote Goku. As you may be aware, Goku has a very peculiar speech style. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to say that he sounds like a stereotypical Japanese country bumpkin because he doesn't. However, his speech style does take elements from some rural Japanese dialects. For example, ora is the first person pronoun that Goku uses. This is a first-person pronoun that is closely associated with the Tohoku dialect. And the Tohoku dialect is often used in Japanese media when you want to portray a character as having come from the countryside. That being said, the way that Goku speaks is very much Goku, right? There is no other character in Japanese media that speaks exactly like Goku. There is no one in existence that naturally sounds like Goku. However, at the beginning of Dragon Ball, when the manga and when the anime first started airing, he basically spoke in a pretty standard Japanese dialect. Yes, he did use ora and he did use informal Japanese, but for the most part, he used pretty standard sounding Japanese. It was Masako Nozawa that really started to exaggerate some elements of Goku, and that influenced the way that Toriyama wrote Goku. Now, I can only assume that it was kind of a back and forth, but Nozawa played a very important role in shaping the way that Goku sounds.
They got the terrible Japanese Goku voice of that old lady. I f***ing hate that. That's Goku's Japanese voice actor. I have to listen to that while I eat sushi.
Even after hearing all that, I think there would still be some people that would say, yeah, well, I still don't think Goku's Japanese voice suits him. And to that, I would say, well, the entire country of Japan disagrees with you. Yes, there might be some people in Japan who don't particularly care for Goku's Japanese voice, aka the original voice, but I would also say that most of those people, if not every single one of those people, are also not really Dragon Ball fans. Maybe there's an exception there, some weird people that say like, no, for me, Dragon Ball is only the manga, I can't stand the anime, I guess. But for the most part, people who like Dragon Ball also like Goku's Japanese voice in Japan. Why is this? Why is there this divide between some fans in the English-speaking fandom and the Japanese fandom? Of course, there is the fact that people in Japan understand that Dragon Ball began with Goku as a kid, and so they followed it from the very beginning, whereas in the US and English-speaking countries, almost everybody began watching Dragon Ball from the Dragon Ball Z portion of the story, which means that they were first introduced to Goku as an adult.
Sitting next to her when she does Goku voices, I can feel her change into something else. I can feel her channel. It's like Masako, then suddenly I can feel Goku sitting next to her. It's amazing.
On top of that, there's also the fact that Goku's iconic speech style from the original Japanese is completely gone from all of the dubs of Dragon Ball. If there's some dub out there that tries to somehow replicate Goku's very unique speech style, well, let me know, but I've never come across one. And here's the thing. In Japanese, even though, yes, he does have a high-pitched voice, he doesn't sound stereotypically feminine. Goku uses very unrefined language. He comes off as uneducated because he's not educated. And the contractions, the vocabulary, the way that he speaks all emphasizes that. And so in the original Japanese, you have a very interesting contrast that takes place between the high-pitched voice and the rather unrefined, stereotypically masculine language that Goku uses. But like I said, that's all gone from the dubs. For example, let's talk about Sean Schemmel.
Hi, my name is Sean Schemmel, and I play the voice of Goku and King Kai in Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods.
He does a great job. His Goku is iconic, and many people love his performance. But take away the slightly high-pitched voice that he no doubt modeled after Masako Nozawa's vocal performance, and all you're left with is a guy that sounds really normal, right? He just sounds like a normal guy. Take the case of Mario Castañeda.
When Goku is presenting the next episode, he always starts with, Hola, soy Goku.
Same thing. Great vocal performance. I love Mario Castañeda as Goku. But if you take away the voice and you just look at what he's saying, it's very normal, generic, vanilla Spanish. So to me, part of the big divide that exists between pretty much everybody in Japan and some fans in the English-speaking fandom comes down to this linguistic difference. A lot of the people that hate on Masako Nozawa's portrayal of Goku have no idea of everything that she puts into that performance. So all of the nuance, all of the linguistic quirks, all of the interesting things in that performance are going over their heads, and that results in some horrible takes like this one.
Let's be honest. If you were to look at Goku right now, take him out of your brain entirely, completely get rid of his appearance entirely out of your head, right? And you were to hear him say some words.
Sure feels good to fight someone at their best. It's been a long time.
You instantly know it's Goku. You can't do that for the Japanese version.
全力出し合って戦うわ。やっぱ気持ちいいよな。心を持ちながら 激しい怒りによって目覚めた。
I beg your pardon?
Like, if you're going to tell me that the average person listening to that voice line right there is going to instantly think, Goku, you are high.
You see what I mean? It makes me want to pull out my hair. Goku's voice, and I'm also including how he speaks in this, and just generally Masako Nozawa's portrayal of Goku, his voice is one of the most recognizable in all of anime history. If you stop some random person on the street in Japan and you play those audio clips for them, I think there's a pretty high chance that they're going to be able to recognize that that is Goku.
みそさん、ドラゴンボールって見たことあります？
ちゃんと見たことないんですよね。
あ、本当ですか？ちょっとこれ読んでもらってもいいですか？
これ？これ？
はい。
おら、悟空。おめえ強えな。おら、ワクワクしてきたぞ。次も絶対見てくれよな。
本当に見たことないですね。
And by the way, I know that there's some people out there that might be thinking, the high-pitched voice was fine for when Goku was a kid, but when he became an adult, they should have changed his voice. Well, my response to that is, Masako Nozawa completely agrees with you. Nozawa doesn't use the same voice for Kid Goku as she does with adult Goku.
なんでオラと似たような格好してんだ？おめえ、小さい頃のオラにそっくりだな。
And the same goes for all the other characters that she plays. Bardock, Gohan, Goten, they all sound recognizably different.
お父さん、すまねえな。あいつの強さを思ってた以上みてえなんだ。
And by the way, each of these characters also uses different language. They use different first-person pronouns and different levels of formality, etc., etc. So between that and the way that Masako Nozawa actually performs each of these characters, yeah, they do sound similar, but they also all sound distinct.
相手してやったんだ。感謝しろよ。楽しかったです。ありがとうございます。
But here's something that you might not expect. I don't think Masako Nozawa's portrayal of Goku would work in English or maybe even any other language. There's cultural, historical, and linguistic reasons why that Goku works so well in Japanese. And the same goes the other way around. For example, if we were to tweak Japanese Goku to sound more like Sean Schemmel, lower his voice a little bit, and of course, take away everything that's interesting about the way that he speaks. Because remember, Sean Schemmel's Goku speaks in a standard American dialect. Japanese Goku does not, but let's have him speak in standard Japanese. Well, what you'd end up with is a very boring and generic character. The way Goku speaks in the original Japanese isn't a meaningless character trait. It highlights some of his core personality traits, cheerful and happy-go-lucky, but also dumb and uneducated. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with liking more than one portrayal of Goku. I like Mario Castaneda, I like Sean Schemmel, and I like Masako Nozawa's portrayal of Goku. It's so ridiculous how tribal people can be, when in reality, this isn't a black and white issue. But so many people out there want to reduce this to high-pitched voice Goku bad, low-pitched voice Goku good. And look, I know that the people that hate Goku's Japanese voice are probably not going to watch this video, and even if they do, they're probably not going to change their minds. But if even a single person out there comes to appreciate Masako Nozawa's portrayal just a little bit more, or comes to understand that there's a lot more going on with Goku's Japanese voice than they originally thought, well, to me, that is mission accomplished. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Let me know what you think about Goku's Japanese voice. Drop me a comment, but let's keep it civil. I know some people can get really riled up about this topic, so let's be nice to each other. Let's have some fun down in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm working on a new Dragon Ball Dictionary video, so that should be coming out very soon. See you in the next one.